Hello students of class 8. We have already started the chapter Merchant of Venice, wherein we find that the 3,000 ducats that Bassanio needed, both Antonio and Bassanio borrowed it from Shylock, and Shylock made Antonio sign a bond wherein it was written that if Antonio fails to repay it within a certain date that was mentioned, then he would cut a pound of flesh from Antonio's body. Though Bassanio objected to the signing of the bond, but Antonio signed it thinking it was just a formality, as he was quite confident that his ships would be back. Now we find that Bassanio wins the hand of Portia, and both of them, Portia and Bassanio, decide to get married. Also, another marriage takes place between Graciano and Nerissa. Nerissa is Portia's waiting maid, and when they declare this happy news that both the marriages will be taking place at the same day, at that moment a messenger comes with letter from Antonio, wherein Antonio says that all his ships are lost at sea and the date of repayment is over, and now Shylock only wants a pound of flesh from his body. In a word, that his life is in danger, and but before dying he wants to see Bassanio for one last time. And Portia, on hearing this, she gets very upset, and she says that Bassanio can take all her money, but no harm should come to Antonio. So that both the marriages take place, because so that Bassanio has legal right to Portia's money, and both Bassanio and Graciano, they leave for Venice. The date of repayment being passed, the cruel Jew would not accept of the money which Bassanio offered him, but insisted upon having a pound of Antonio's flesh. A day was appointed to try the shocking case before the Duke of Venice, and Bassanio awaited in dreadful suspense the event of the trial. So, as we have already known from the letter of Antonio that the date of repayment was over, and now Shylock wants a pound of flesh, and the case went up in the court, and the Duke of Venice was the judge who would try the case. And Bassanio went there, and he was waiting for the dreadful thing. That means Antonio would die, and it was because of him that Antonio would die. When Portia parted with her husband, she spoke cheeringly to him and bade him bring his dear friend along with him when he returned. That is, Portia said that I don't want to hear anything, but next time when you come back, I should also see your dear friend Antonio along with you. Yet she feared it would go hard with Antonio, and when she was left alone, she began to think and consider within herself if she could by any means be instrumental in saving the life of dear Bassanio's friend. So what it means is that Portia wanted to try to think of a way in which she could do something to save Antonio's life. And notwithstanding, when she wished to honor her Bassanio, she had said to him with such a meek and wife-like grace that she would submit in all things to be governed by his superior wisdom. Yet, being now called forth into action by the peril of her honored husband's friend, peril means danger, of her honor husband's friend, she did nothing doubt her own powers, and by the sole guidance of her true and perfect judgment at once resolved to go herself to Venice and speak in Antonio's defense. What this paragraph means is that Portia said that, yes, Bassanio, I want that next time when you come, you will bring your friend along with you. But though Portia said that, Portia knew that it was a very difficult case and Antonio's life was in danger. So she thought that if she could herself do something to save Antonio's life. Now, the author says that though Portia had, made a promise to Bassanio that after their marriage, she will always be guided by, whatever Bassanio says. But now that, Antonio's life was in danger, and Antonio's life was dangerous, so she thought that instead of being instead of being guided by Bassanio, she should herself do something to save Antonio, and she had already decided that she would go to Venice and fight for go as a defense lawyer for Antonio. For that, what did she do? Portia had a relation who was a counselor in the law. Counselor in the law means a barrister, or means a lawyer. Okay, so Portia had a relative who was a lawyer. To this gentleman, whose name was Bellario. So see, among the characters I've written Bellario's name also. So Portia's relative, whose name was Bellario, was a lawyer. She wrote, whose name was Bellario, she wrote and stating the case to him, desired his opinion, and that with his advice he would also send her the dress worn by a counselor. When the messenger returned, he brought letters from Bellario of advice how to proceed, and also everything necessary for her equipment. So, as Portia had already decided that she would go to Venice and be a defense lawyer for Antonio and plead for Antonio and save Antonio's life. So, as soon as she thought that, she wrote a letter to one of her relatives named Bellario, who was a lawyer. What she did was she stated the case in detail, and then she also told Bellario to along with the reply he should also send the dress worn by a lawyer. Okay, and Bellario also did in the same way. He wrote in the in his reply letter that how Portia should proceed with the case, and not only that, he also sent the dress of a lawyer and also the dress of a clerk, because Nerissa, we will see later on that Nerissa was dressed as a clerk of Portia. Portia dressed herself and her maid Nerissa in men's apparel. In men's apparel means she disguised herself as a lawyer, okay, and took the name of Balthazar, and she took Nerissa as her clerk, but both were dressed as men. And putting on the robes of a counselor, putting on the robes means putting on the dress of a lawyer, she took Nerissa along with her as her clerk, as I said. Setting out immediately, they arrived at Venice on the very day of the trial. So, on the trial, when where the day when the trial was about to take place, they reached Venice before that. The cause was just going to be heard before the Duke and the senators of Venice in the Senate House, when Portia entered this High Court of Justice and presented a letter from Bellario, in which that learned counselor wrote to Duke, saying that he would have come himself to plead for Antonio, but that he was prevented by sickness. So the case was about to start. Okay, the Duke, that is the judge, was there in judge's seat, and all the senators of Venice, that is all the dignitaries, all the important people of Venice were in the Senate House, okay, where the trial would take place. And when they were about to start the case, and right at that moment Portia entered, and she presented a letter from Bellario. And what Bellario wrote was that we know that Bellario himself was a lawyer. So what Bellario wrote was that he would have come himself to try the case, to fight for Antonio, but as he was sick, he had sent he sent his this young lawyer, whose name was Balthazar, to fight for Antonio. See, prevented by sickness, and he requested that learned young doctor Balthazar. Doctor here means the lawyer himself. Okay, young lawyer Balthazar, as he called Portia, might be permitted to plead in his state. So instead of Bellario, Bellario through his letter made a request that let Portia, or the name that she took was Balthazar, be allowed to try the case. This the Duke granted, much wondering at the youthful appearance of the stranger, who was prettily disguised by her counselor's robe and her large wig. So this Portia was in a disguise, but excuse me, but this Duke was a bit surprised by Portia's appearance, because she appeared to be a very what should I say, a very young man, okay, and a handsome man in that way, youthful appearance, a very young man who was prettily disguised. So even to the Duke, the young man appeared to be very pretty. And now began this important trial. Portia looked around her, and she saw the merciless Jew, and she saw Bassanio, but he knew not her in her disguise. Knew her not in disguise. She was standing beside Antonio in an agony of distress and fear for his friend. So when Portia looked around, she saw Shylock, the Jew, and she saw Bassanio, but Bassanio could not recognize her, because she was dressed in a man's clothes, and she also saw Antonio. Agony means pain. The importance of the arduous task, arduous means the difficult task, of Portia had engaged in, gave this tender lady courage, and she boldly proceeded in the duty she had undertaken to perform. So Portia, though she was very young, but when she had taken on the responsibility to save Antonio's life, she very boldly proceeded with the case. And first of all, she addressed herself to Shylock, and allowing that he had the right by the Venetian law to have the forfeit expressed in the bond, she spoke so sweetly of the noble quality of mercy as would have softened any heart but the unfeeling Shylocks, saying that it dropped as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. So Portia, began the case saying that yes, Shylock, by law you have every right to take a pound of flesh from Antonio's body, as you have said, but I appeal to you to forgive Antonio and to show mercy. And the author is saying that Portia spoke so sweetly that any other person would have been convinced, but Shylock was a very cruel and hard-hearted person, and he had been, thinking of taking revenge on Antonio for a long time. So Portia was unable to convince Shylock in that way. And how mercy was a double blessing. It blessed him that gave and him that received it. And how it became monarchs better than their crowns, being an attribute to God himself. And that earthly power came nearest to God in proportion as mercy tempered justice. So what it means is that he's saying that if you are showing mercy to somebody, you are doing a great not only great favor to that person whom you are showing the mercy, but you are also doing a favor to yourself. So that way it is a double blessing. Okay, that is, you are double blessing in the sense that you are being blessed by the person because you are forgiving the person, means the person who has done something to you, and also at the same time, God is showering his blessings on you because you have shown that mercy to the other person. And she bade Shylock remember that as we all pray for mercy, that same prayer should teach us how to show mercy. So when we do something, if we do something wrong, we ask for mercy. So Portia said, if you ask for mercy, you should also have that kindness in you to show mercy to others. That is, in a word, what Portia tried to say is that you should forgive Antonio and take the money whatever is being given to you. Shylock only answered her by desiring to have the penalty forfeited in the bond. But Shylock was very stubborn. He said that no, I'm not going to accept anything else other than the pound of flesh from Antonio's body. Is he not able to pay the money? Asked Portia. Bassanio then offered the Jew the payment of 3,000 ducats, as many times over as he should desire, which Shylock refusing and still insisting upon having a pound of Antonio's flesh. Bassanio begged the learned young counselor would endeavor to wrest the law a little to save Antonio's life. But Portia gravely answered that laws once established never be altered. Shylock, hearing Portia say that the law might be altered, it seemed to him, might not be altered, it seemed to him that she was pleading in his favor. And he said, a Daniel is come to judgment. O wise young judge, how I do honor you. How much elder are you than your looks. So what happened was that Portia said that is nobody able to pay the money? Then Bassanio immediately says that yes, I am able to pay the money. And Shylock said that no, I am not going to take the money, and I am only going to take a pound of flesh from Antonio's body. And then Bassanio asked Portia that can you make some changes in the law, can you just change the law a bit so that Antonio's life can be saved. So Portia said no, law is a law, it cannot be changed in that way. So, hearing this, Shylock thought that Portia had come to plead in his favor. Portia now desired Shylock to let her look at the bond, and when she had read it, she said, "This bond is forfeited, and by this the Jew must lawfully claim a pound of flesh, and to be by him cut off and nearest Antonio's heart." Then she said to Shylock, "Be merciful, take the money, and bid me tear the bond." So Portia said, "Can I have a look at the bond?" And then when when she had a look at the bond, she says, "Yes, it's forfeited. That is, you have to pay the penalty." Forfeit means you pay a penalty for something, you have not been able to do, the punishment. Okay. So yes, I can see that. But still Portia requested Shylock that, you can take the money and I can tear the bond. But no mercy would the cruel Shylock show, and he said, "By my soul, I swear there is no power in the tongue of man to alter me." So Shylock was, very stubborn, and he said that, "No, I'm not going to accept any money." "Why then, Antonio," said Portia, "you must prepare your bosom for the knife." And while Shylock was sharpening a long knife with great eagerness to cut off the pound of flesh, Portia said to Antonio, "Have you anything to say?" So then Portia said that since Shylock is so determined that he won't take anything else, then Antonio, you prepare yourself to bear the knife on your bosom, that is on your chest, okay, on your heart. And she also asked Antonio if he had anything to say in his defense. Okay, we stop here today. We'll just do a quick recap of what we have done in this portion. That is, we find that Portia wants to help Antonio, and that's why she writes a letter to her relative Bellario, who is a lawyer, and also gets a dress of a lawyer, wearing which she goes to Venice as the lawyer Balthazar. Antonio was awaiting there a dreadful end. She appeals to mercy. She tells Shylock how mercy is a double blessing. And Bassanio also shows his readiness to pay the money, but Shylock refuses. Then Portia looks in the bond and says that Shylock has, by law, Shylock has every right to take that money. And Shylock is very stubborn, so Portia asks him to prepare himself to bear the knife. So we stop here today. We will do the rest of it in the next day. Thank you.